This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor Jon Hicks, founder of Hagan Capital.
Jon Hicks, founder of Hagan Capital, financial advisor, here to clarify information for us. You've mentioned before in many different circumstances and conversations the idea about, well, safety, obviously, safety first, but how to manage circumstances when the market has been volatile. And yes, we have seen market rebounds, fortunately, but in 20 to 30 to 40 years of retirement, what's the average market correction cycle?
Yeah. So if you look at a standard market correction, about every 3 to 5 years, we'll see a 20 to 35% drawdown at least on average. Now, we're in a weird cycle, right? We've had almost 12 or 13 years where we haven't quite had that much. I mean, we had 2022 where stocks and bonds both got, lambasted. We had 2020 where the market was, I'm not going to say artificial because it truly went down. It went down almost 30-something% before it had one of the quickest rebounds in the history of time. So we've seen volatility, but the next downturn probably won't be based on a black swan event. It's probably just going to be really systemic, which just means, hey, we can't spend this way and have this much debt and keep doing this way. And unfortunately, that could lead to a more prolonged downturn. And we hope that's not the case. But I mean, when you look at most of history and how it's kind of worked out, it's kind of what it suggests. We just want to prepare for that if we know that could actually even be on the horizon at all.
Being prepared with a plan in place and an understanding of what our options are, because obviously, there's nothing absolute when it comes to what our options are, but it is seldom a good idea to take money out of an account that is dropping in value. So Elizabeth O'Brien, she's with Barron's, and she was talking about how when the market is volatile, you should have a cash account as your safety net. Here's what she said.
So as you're approaching retirement, you want to nail down your cash cushion. That means setting aside at least a year's worth of expenses in cash. And what I mean by that is the amount you need to pay the bills after accounting for Social Security and any other income sources you have. That way you don't have to sweat the volatility as much if you know that your near-term expenses, your essentials, are taken care of.
So, a couple of things. One, I do want to ask you about what you think people should have in the way of a cash cushion, and is 1 year of cash enough when we're in retirement? But also, we have talked extensively about bucketing our money when it comes to tax strategies, but should we also have a bucket strategy for liquidity in our retirement plan?
Great point. So I'm going to kind of answer all those kind of in summation. So I think that a year's worth of income has to be in, let's call it just the safe short-term bucket, right? Now, I also want most people, let's say that you need $70,000 of income that first year. So I kind of want in that first bucket. Now, guys, this doesn't mean that you have it sitting in cash earning nothing. I mean, we're kind of fortunate right now that we can have our money in short-term money markets or things like that are still getting 3.5 to 4.5, sometimes even a little bit better than 5%, and they're pretty liquid, right? So that's not so bad. But I want 1 year's worth of income plus a emergency fund equal to 3 to 6 months of total expenses. And then if you have any major expenditure is coming up, for instance, you want to go ahead and do that Mediterranean cruise, and or that hot water heater is about to go out and that's going to be another $4,000, or you're certain that you're going to have to replace that car. And even whether you pay cash for it or finance it doesn't make any difference. You kind of want a good amount of that. So to me, in a very short-term bucket, I want 1 year's worth of income plus your emergency account, plus whatever for a fact is going to have happen as far as like an expenditure. You have to redo the deck on the investment property, or someone could sue you, so that's going to be $25,000. That's the amount of money I want to keep in that first bucket, because if we do that, we're going to have liquidity. No matter what comes up, we know we have concerns, and we can always choose, I don't have to do the deck this year. But that it's already a portion, it's already taken care of if a downturn lasts a little bit longer.
You're saying that's all in one bucket then?
That is the very first bucket. That would be the short term, what we call the now bucket. In the event that things were wrong and we couldn't pull from any other assets, either because we needed them to produce an income or we need it to grow because it's a downturn now, if that were to be the case, we need money that we know that there is zero chance of it going down, that we could get cash available so it's liquid, or pretty darn close to liquid, as much as we can. That is that bucket number one, or we call the now bucket.
The now bucket. All right. Next bucket then.
We call that the soon bucket, or some people call it the income generation bucket. So if you owned...
Which is interesting, and let me interject, because I would think you were talking about the idea of upcoming big purchases in the way I think about it, I'm like, well, shouldn't that go in the soon bucket? This is what I wanted. That's why I really wanted to break this down.
Yeah. So what's important, so the soon bucket kind of has one job. It is to create income. So for instance, if you own an investment property, let's say that you own an Airbnb, you own it in straight cash, so you don't have any debt on it. You have no desire to sell it, but it's going to produce, let's say it's a $200,000 asset producing $20,000 a year. Well, to me, since you have no desire to sell that asset, I would keep that in that middle bucket, that soon asset, right? Because that $200,000 is going to support you getting $20,000 a year. That's pretty good. Every year it produces that $20,000. Guess what? It goes into that now bucket, and you can spend it. You can use that for part of your income. I love it.
Okay.
Part number two, let's say that you have a lump sum pension that you get the opportunity to say, hey, you can take this lump sum pension. You can turn it into an annuity with us, or you can turn it into an annuity on your own, or you can take those assets and invest in whatever you want. Well, a portion of that, I would be really, really nice if you could actually create an income stream for that. Typically, we don't want the whole amount. We want to know what of those assets can we pull a 5 to 7% income stream from in that bucket. We want no loss opportunities. We don't want to have any chance of losses, but we want it to create an income. Because if we can put, let's say, $1 million in that soon bucket, and that can produce a 7% income, that's $70,000 a year. So let's add that to that $20,000 we get from that Airbnb. Now we get $90,000. Whew. Add that to whatever we get from Social Security. Let's say $40,000. Now we have $130,000 annual income with assets that we're comfortable with. The real estate, we've had it forever. It's paid off, paid in cash. We know we're going to get the income from that. The other asset we know we can pull from. We're not going to plan on selling it. We want it to produce that annuity or pension style income. Great. Yeah. And we know we're going to have Social Security. So whatever is remaining can really be risked any amount we want. That would be the later bucket. So again, the now bucket is money that we're going to have now, or we could use now, or we want to have it available now so that we don't have to sell assets at the wrong time, right? That's why I say it's more than just 1 year's living expenses. It's a little bit more than that, right? That soon bucket is money that we might need soon, but we need it to create an income for us that we can use now. Okay.
All right.
And then that third bucket, the last one, and this is where most people, this is where the majority of us invest most of our money. We have it in that, what I call the later or growth bucket. They have their 401ks and their mutual funds and their IRAs. They got their individual equities and their stocks and their mutual funds and their exchange traded funds and their gold and their silver and all that kind of stuff. Well, guys, that is all meant for later. It's meant to grow over the long run. Great. But any given day, it could be down 9%. 22%. In any given month or year, it could be down 30 or 40%. So we don't want to have to get to that money when we need it now.
Right.
And you don't know if we're going to be able to get to it soon. So that's what becomes the later bucket.
Okay.
Because if we have enough time for markets to do its thing, then generally I do feel that U.S. equities, quality international stocks and funds like that, Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, all the good stuff, right? BlackRock, whatever you want. The idea is that over long periods of time, those will do well, but we have to give them the time. So we have to put those in that later bucket. Now, that later bucket is where most people have most of their money. We want to make sure you understand your risk tolerance, right? Because if you said, well, John, I've been pretty aggressive. It's how I've gotten all this money in the front end. No problem. Whatever you have remaining in that later bucket, be as risky as you choose. Most people, when they realize the bucketing system will stop you from having almost any major heart palpitations, it will almost completely eliminate your fear of running out of money because oh no, I got plenty of money in the now bucket. I can see that I've got sizable assets in the soon bucket giving me income every year. What's there to freak out about? So you know what happens, Heather, is that your plan, you can actually stick with it, which is the number one reason why people that even have plans would ever fail. Because why? They don't stick to the plan.
Yeah.
So if you simply have a now, a soon, and a later bucket, easily you can go into retirement feeling confident because you always know if you needed something, what's in that next bucket over? What's in that next bucket over? Hopefully we don't require that, but that allows us to live to fight and live another day.
You have mentioned many different strategies and how they fall within these different buckets and keeping up with liquidity. Besides an emergency fund, are there other alternatives that you suggest as far as where to pull money from in a down market?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of things. Usually I want people to kind of have a line of credit, and then this is not because we're going to use lines of credit or credit in certain situations.
Okay.
I really want people to be aware of what are your opportunities when things get weird.
Yeah.
Because selling any asset that's volatile is almost 100% the recipe for disaster.
Okay.
If you look at almost any period of time, if you sell an asset that's underwater at the wrong time, your chances of running out of money increase through the roof. Okay. So any way that we can just be certain that we have enough assets that can't lose in bad situations. And what do I mean by bad situations? Inflation skyrockets, the markets plummet, people start pulling money out of the U.S. economy. So now international markets are good, but not the U.S. economy. The next president does something completely different and derails the current policies. The fact that what if the United States keeps getting downgraded in our debt structure, no one buys our debts, and the government has no choice because they can't get money from other people, but then to truly take it from us. Those are things that can impact us for great periods of time. And by the way, every one of those things has happened in this country over the past 100 years. We've just forgotten about a lot of it. But it can absolutely happen. So again, how do we protect ourselves from those things? You asked me, are there other things that we can do other than an emergency fund to put these things together? The biggest thing is just to get the KISS method. Keep it simple, silly. Just make certain that we understand how much we can afford to risk, how much we don't have to risk, because really it does come down to how much is enough. If you're about to retire next year and you're not already a multi-millionaire, just be honest with yourself. The chances of being a multi-millionaire may be out the door, but could you be tolerable? Is it tolerable just to be a single millionaire, but stay that way and live life the way you want? Probably. So let's just make sure we get it right. Using the right plan and sticking with it is the easiest way to make sure that you live the life you want when you want to do it.
Sounds to me like there might be alternatives, but really put a plan in place. Don't worry about alternatives. Focus on the plan.
There is no alternative to having a proper plan that you can stick to. And that's the most important part, that you can stick to.
And being realistic with yourself, being honest with yourself. Another point you are always reiterating to people, be honest with yourself, be honest with Jon and his team so that they can create a clear plan, a simple, clear plan for you so you know the direction that you're headed for the years ahead. We are at retirementsolutionshow.com. That's where you can go to start the conversation with Jon and his team at J. Hagan Capital about creating this plan, bucketing your money, knowing where you're going to be pulling from in the years ahead in a plan that's clear and simple for you. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there, or again, it's retirementsolutionshow.com.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with Jon Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with Jon and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to Jon's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through J. Hagan Capital, LLC, NPN number 188279094.